Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most valuable and actionable piece of content that I've ever created. Over the next hour, I'm going to be going over and breaking down everything I've learned over the last few years that has helped me scale my income to upwards of $40,000 a month. And in just 2025 alone, having generated over $350,000 profit. And here's the best part. Not only will I show you how, but I'm going to give you the exact structured process I followed from day zero with absolutely no experience to now for you, cutting out all the time I wasted, all the mistakes I made, which if followed correctly should speed up your journey to freedom 10 times over. My goal here over the next period of time that we spend together is to give you the exact roadmap for 2026 on how to make money online, so that this will be the only video that you need. I'll be breaking this all down into 10 separate modules, sharing information I spent thousands of dollars to acquire myself financially, and life advice that I've received from people doing 100 times what I'm doing myself, showing not just one way of making money, but 3 different money models and the very same 90-day roadmap that I followed from the beginning, something that I've never shared before, that has not only generated myself multi-six figures over the last 2 years, but hundreds of regular everyday people as well. All of this for free. So if you click this video for a quick dopamine hit or another how to get rich by tomorrow working 1 hour a day from some beach, then I suggest you click off this video, because this isn't what we're here for. This process does take time. To achieve everything you wanted in life, it's not going to happen overnight, but I promise it's more than possible with a structure in place that actually works and willingness to put your ego aside and follow the path to success. Now that we've got rid of the kids with TikTok brain, before we get started, I'll get you guys to like this video, save it for later, and subscribe, because with the amount of time and information that was put into this video, you may need to come back multiple times over the coming months depending on where you're at in the roadmap and how you're actually wanting to make money, because as I said, I'll be showing you guys multiple different ways to make money, whether that's sending DMs completely faceless, taking calls for businesses, or even posting content. No matter what you want to do, I'll be giving you guys a way to make money today, and for not just 2026, but beyond. So put your phones away, grab a pen and paper, and let's get started. Now, quick story for who I am, where I came from, and why you should sit through this and listen to me in the first place. Just 18 months ago, I was there. Like a lot of you right now, working 10-hour days, 50-hour weeks as a carpenter in Melbourne, Australia, for barely $1,000 a week. I always felt deep down that there had to be more than just waking up to an alarm, clocking in Monday to Friday, having a few beers on the weekend, and then repeating that for the next 60 years, where I then retire and eventually drop dead. It honestly terrified me that that version of reality was more possible than not for someone like me. Now, around the time that this guy blew up and became one of the most recognizable people on the planet, I'd never heard of anything online, or that it was even possible that you can make money from your phone or laptop. And as you do, I fell into the rabbit hole. Suddenly, that's all I was seeing all over my social media. Make 10K a month with dropshipping, become a millionaire with day trading. I could see that times were changing and fast, but for a good 2 years took zero action and just sat on the sidelines watching everyone else win. Now, early 2023, my New Year's resolution was to lock in, take action, and make 10K in a month to eventually replace my income and get out of construction. Here's a video of me pissed drunk at the start of 2023 on the side of the road at 4 a.m. talking about my goals for the year.
Sitting on the side of the road in Geelong. Got a business meeting in 4.5 hours. I'm gonna be rich. 1 year from now, when I get a 1 year to go today of this, I would have earned $100,000. 10 grand a month from now. It'll be all worth it. Brah!
12 months had passed. I'd tried 1,000,001 different things, drop shipping, day trading. I even sold vapes off Alibaba for a bit to try and make a bit of money, but not really sticking to anything consistently for longer than a month. I'd pretty much given up on everything, and at that point had labeled everything too good to be true online. 2024 had hit. I was becoming more and more miserable by the day. Nothing had changed in my life for near on 4 years. I had no drive, no ambition, and was just a lazy piece of shit. My then girlfriend at the time had grown sick of the person that I was becoming. I wasn't a very good person, and I ended up getting dumped. We parted ways after 3 years, my first love. I was ruined, and my life felt meaningless at that point. Like I had nothing to look forward to, and as grim and dark as it may sound, I don't want to really talk about that, I was ready to throw in the towel with life. We had officially hit rock bottom, but something inside me ticked. That feeling that I used to have late at night, that I was meant for more, had come back, and hitting rock bottom lit that fire inside me again. I had a point to prove, and that changed everything. I fell back down the make money online rabbit hole again, but this time it was different. I reflected on why I failed previously, and I now had the hunger to prove a point more than ever, not just to people who had left me, but more so a point to prove to myself. I realized that I had no skills to be successful in any of the stuff that I tried previously, and the people that you do see online living that life Well, they're business owners. So as a complete beginner, someone who failed school, how am I ever going to compete with someone like that? And that's when I came across high income skills, and more specifically sales. A skill that can take anywhere from 60 to 90 days to learn with the right structure. And once you learn it and stick with it, well, longer than a week, you can make money with any business for the rest of your life. Now, as a tradie who failed school, speaking and communication definitely wasn't my strong point. So I'm not going to sit here and say I watched a few videos every night after work on how to get good at sales, communication, and that's what got me here right now, because that's just not what happened. In April 2024, I decided to invest into a mentor, invest into my knowledge and my skill sets so that I could actually learn this skill properly from someone who had already been there and done it. The way I looked at it was, you go through an apprenticeship, you learn from the qualified boys, trade school teachers on how to become a carpenter. The process shouldn't be much different here. After 2.5 months, I landed my first DM setting role. By the third month, I'd closed my first high ticket deal and made double what I would in a week as a chippy just from taking a few calls a night after work, all while still working 50-hour weeks on the tools. A few weeks later, I made $10,000 in a week, and that's when I handed my 2 weeks notice in and quit. Now, I don't say any of this to brag or go, look at me, that was so easy, because the truth is it wasn't, and it did take time. But I say it more so to show what is possible when you stick to something longer than a week and actually take the steps to learn something properly. No half-assing it, no shortcuts, and yeah, my journey is pretty cool to look back on. I'm definitely proud of it, but the part that I'm most proud of is the wins that I've helped other people get. Complete beginners making 4 figures in a day. Apprentices like Kai making almost $9,000 in 1 week. Qualified tradies who were in a pretty similar spot to what I was, making $20,000 a month completely faceless. People with no experience, people who thought they were too late or too dumb or full of self-doubt, getting their first results with high ticket sales after coming across my content and my journey, getting my advice and my guidance and following a plan that works. Not because I've cracked the code and figured it all out, and not because they got lucky, but because learning these skills actually work when you learn it properly, which is exactly why we are here today. And I have no doubt that a select few of you watching this who are ready to implement, take this seriously and take action will see the same results, if not more, in 2026. And before we jump into module 1, if at any point throughout this video you have any questions or want more hands-on help learning high ticket sales, you want the exact resources, the exact training, the exact guidance and same support that not only helped me but all the people you just saw start from scratch as beginners and find success, I've left a link down below to book a one-on-one call with the team. It's the first link in the description down below. They begin to map out an exact plan for your situation and what the next 60 to 90 days could look like with the right plan in place for you to get started. My Instagram will be the link below that as well. That's where you can reach me, ask me any questions personally. But for now, keep watching, grab that pen and paper, because this is where it all begins. Righto guys, what is good? Welcome. And before we dive into any of the different money models, techniques, strategies, before we give out the exact 90-day roadmap, we need to establish what we are actually doing here, because without that, everything else burns to the ground with the first challenge that we face. Here's the truth, 99% of people fail, fall into a life that's just okay, or even worse, one they hate. People then say the 1% of people who get to live out their dreams just got lucky or were born into it, which is false. The thing that separates you right now from the life that you dream of is not lack of drive, not even lack of money or resources or direction. You're here watching this right now, but it's more so a lack of foundation around what it is you're trying to achieve. Anything without a foundation around it will fall 100% of the time. Buildings, governments, whole countries. So we pour concrete slabs, we have democracies, we create laws. What we are building here is no different and is the part that gets left out for the 99% of people who just settle. What we're going to build is a rock solid 6-layer foundation so that no matter what, when the self-doubt creeps in, the motivation drops, or the opinions of others or those around you linger, we stay laser focused on the task at hand. You need to understand why you're here. You need your vision to be painted clearly, your goals set with actionable steps. Discomfort and risk taking has to be embraced. And finally, everything in this video becomes irrelevant without urgency and action. First, your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you here? Without a strong why, you will fail. And no, buying a Ferrari or a Rolex isn't a strong enough why. If you come into this wanting some more financial freedom or passive income or materialism, that is your first mistake. And this is something I want you guys to get super intentional on right now. Rather than thinking about what more money can buy you, think about what more money in your life can do for you and those you love. Will having the ability to be able to make more money on your own terms give you more time with your family? Will you be able to give back to those you love? Will you leave behind that job that you hate? And this alone right here is the part that keeps you pushing, no matter how hard some days get, when motivation comes and goes. Because what's the alternative to not achieving your why? Your family struggling? You working for the next 50 years? You can't bear these feelings. You know what that feels like already. This pushes you to keep going because you don't want to keep experiencing these things. You don't know what driving a Ferrari is like. So what's the reason to keep pushing on when things get hard? So I want you to sit down with this right now, write it down if you have to, and figure out your deeper reason why. Now, you know why you're here, but what does that actually look like? What do you envision when you see yourself living your dream life? Do you even have a picture of that in your head right now of what that may look like? Layer number 2 is casting your vision. Think to yourself just quickly, have you ever got in a car and started driving with no end destination? Probably not, right? And if you were to, where would you end up? Well, who knows? That's my point. The same applies here. If you don't have a clear picture painted out in your head of what that dream life may look like, what it'll be like achieving your why that you just wrote down, the way it would make you feel to do so, how can you ever expect to get there? Having a strong vision alone fueled my journey from day one. A vision painted in my head so clearly that when it happened, the dream life you could never even picture yourself living a year ago, a distant pipe dream almost, doesn't feel crazy reaching it anymore. It feels overdue. I remember every day at work I would envision myself handing my 2 weeks in, what I'd write on my 2 weeks notice, sitting behind my laptop in a villa with a pool, taking my family away on trips, what their reactions would be like. It was front of my mind 24/7. I was obsessed with it, even down to the food that I would eat that morning that I would pay for that dream holiday away. You can never be too specific with this. Live it out in your head over and over and over again. And a funny thing happens. You'll find yourself living it. Setting a goal is one thing. Everyone can set goals. New Year's resolutions, false promises, mental masturbation, words on a piece of paper. But how do you actually set out goals that get achieved 100% of the time? I truly believe goal setting in itself is a skill. And I'm going to show you right now how to achieve 100% of your goals 100% of the time. A big goal that you might have in the back of your head right now, like paying off your parents' mortgage, just seems unimaginable. You don't even believe deep down within yourself that you could do it, which makes it virtually impossible if you don't even think you can get there. But achieving your goals is an art in itself. It's not about achieving one big goal. It's achieving multiple smaller goals over time, then compounding those wins. Then eventually that bigger goal that seemed so unimaginable has almost or has been ticked off too. For example, you want to replace your income, make $10,000 in a month in the next 90 days. A similar goal for me when I was first starting. Right now seems crazy, right? Seems unimaginable. No way you're getting there. But when we start to break it down like this, it becomes a lot more possible. Or to make $10,000 in 1 month, I need to replace what I'm making right now at work. Say that's $4,000. All right, that seems a bit more doable. Well, to replace my income in a month, I need to replace my income in a week. Right, goes down to $1,000 in a week now. Well, to make my first $1,000 in a week, first off, I need to make any money at all. Well, to make my first bit of money online, I need to be on a sales role. To be able to land a sales role with a business, I probably need to learn sales. And to learn sales properly so I can land that sales role, I probably need to learn from someone who's already done it. And I think you get the point. Over the course of 3 months, I didn't just go from 0 to making 10K a month, quitting my job miraculously. And it all just happened like that. I achieved 10 smaller little goals in that period of time that eventuated then to the $10,000 a month to me quitting my job. Something that to me seemed like a pipe dream 3 months earlier actually happened. This is the art of goal setting, knowing the actionable steps to take every day to achieve those little smaller goals rather than looking at that big goal that's so scary and getting overwhelmed by it. Set yourself goals for 3 months from now, 6 months from now, goals that may scare you, goals that may seem impossible, and spend time right now breaking that bigger goal down into 10, 15, 20 little goals with the actionable steps to take to achieve those smaller goals. So if it's making your first bit of money, then how are you going to make that first bit of money? All right, we've made that first bit of money. How do we scale that? How do we double that to make the next bit of money? And that is how you achieve 100% of your goals 100% of the time. The first 3 layers have been set in stone. I hope that you have written down your why. You've painted a vision so clearly for yourself that you're living it out every day. Put it on a mirror, the first thing you see when you wake up, when you're brushing your teeth, whatever it takes, and have set out those goals and broken them down into smaller goals with the steps to take every day. These are all written out. There's something that you can hold in your hand to remind you, but the remaining 3 layers to your foundation come from within. And honestly, this is the part no one wants to hear. The reason that you are stuck and in the position that you're in is because of the actions that you have or have not taken. Every decision you have made in your life up until this point has led you to the point that you're at right now, which I'm assuming is one that you don't want, which means something needs to change from within. For you to begin living that life that you envision for yourself, for you to actualize becoming that person, there are going to be some barriers that we need to break down, or the version of you right now to get you there. Now, I'm not saying you need to become this whole new locked in different person and switch up on all your day ones, but we do need to grow. We do need to start living like the person who deserves the kind of money that we want to be making to be able to do these things. Or truth is, we'll never get there. Whether it's going from $0 to $10,000, or for me right now, trying to go from $40,000 in a month to $100,000 in a month, we will never get to those heights without becoming that person first. What time does he wake up? What does his physique look like? What morals does he live by? What's his diet like? What vices does he have in his life right now that he cuts out to get to that point? It may be alcohol, doom scrolling, eating shit food. Would you in 90 days be doing the things you're doing right now, having achieved everything that we painted out in our vision? If the answer is no, then it's time to become crystal clear on the person that you need to become, and day by day trying to bridge that gap between that person and you right now. And with that becomes embracing discomfort and risk. I want you guys to be honest with yourself right now and ask this question. When was the last time I actually stepped out my comfort zone? When did I push my boundaries? When did I feel like I took a big risk? Something that leaves that sick, nervous feeling in your stomach before doing it. And the chances are not in a very long time, if ever. And that is a big reason you are where you are right now. Everyone's quick to say, oh, if it was so easy, everyone could do it. But no one's willing to look at what it actually takes to get there. The steps that most successful people take to get to the position they're in now that no one else is willing to take. The risks that it might not work out, or the fear that has to be overcome. As humans, we are wired to chase comfort. That's why most of us stay stuck. A paycheck is comfortable. Budgeting and having a few grand in your savings just in case is comfortable. Even staying where you are right now, even though you don't like it, it's all you know, so it's comfortable. And this right here is the one thing that separates the, if it was so easy, everyone would do it, to the people who actually go out there and do it. There's a saying that goes that growth only comes at the end of discomfort. And you guys will find with the more that you achieve throughout this video, the more money you make, the more stuff you can do, the more you actually begin to chase that sick feeling in your stomach before making a big decision. Because you know off the back of that feeling, whether it's in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 months, is the growth that you were after all along and everything you ever wanted. For me, in my experience with this, it has happened time and time again to the point where I just can't ignore it anymore. From getting started at rock bottom, investing a bit of money into mentors that I was very skeptical to do. I was unsure if it'd work out. I'd failed so much in the past, but I still went ahead with it. Super scary, super uncomfortable. But off the back of that, a few months later, I was out of my job. I was traveling. I was living that life that I envisioned for myself. Super uncomfortable. And even the whole quitting my job, that was super uncomfortable. I quit with a few weeks left in my apprenticeship. I worked for 3 years and 11 months in apprenticeship. And my whole mindset was, yep, just stick it out. I'll always have my carpentry qualification in the background. And then I took that risk and got uncomfortable and allowed myself to have no backup plan. So I had to make this work. Super uncomfortable. But off the back of that, I reached $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 months and started making life-changing money. To then now, just recently over the last year, moving my whole life overseas, moving my business overseas, not paying taxes, moving away from my hometown, my friends, my family. Super uncomfortable, but you know, we've just had a year that has changed my life forever, and not just me. Now I'm able to give back to my family, give back to my brother. And this once again comes back to layer 4, which is breaking down those barriers of your old self, breaking through to the person you need to become. What risks does he take? What risks does that version of myself in a few months' time take now to get there? Is this feeling that I'm feeling right now something that the old version of me that's led me here would have used to push aside? So does that mean these are ones that I need to embrace and push forward? All of this is great, right? But at this point in time, it's once again mental masturbation. We're not getting anywhere. All this stuff goes to nothing without urgency and action. The number one trait I see in unsuccessful people is a lack of urgency and action. I'll start tomorrow. The time's not right. One day I'll actually lock in. One day, one day, one day. Where is the day one? This starts today. Look at your goals, your vision, your why, and just start. It has to be today. Become urgent. Time is waiting for no one. Your mum still has to go to work tomorrow. Opportunities are passing right before your eyes. I read something the other day that said that every person in their life has at least one opportunity to become majorly wealthy, which 99% of people pass by, and most of the time they don't even realize they're doing it. You may have had yours already. You could be in a completely different position had you just taken action back when that opportunity arose. So don't make the same mistakes again. Everything in this video is useless if you don't act. You don't need to be confident. You don't need to be ready. You don't need to be experienced. You don't need to be qualified. You just need to take action even when you're scared, even when you're uncomfortable. I wasn't ready when I quit my job. I wasn't ready when I was getting started at rock bottom. I wasn't ready when I moved overseas, when I learned sales, but I did it anyway. And that's what changed my life, nothing else. And if you've made it this far, good. Most people can't even be honest with themselves for 2 minutes. And everything you may have just felt, the discomfort, the guilt, even the clarity, that was the point, because the next part is where shit actually changes. Not theory, not journaling, not mindset quotes. This is the skill that took me from $1,000 a week on the tools to making more in a month than I used to in a year as a carpenter. Module 2, let's talk about high ticket sales. If the word sales makes you think of some bald real estate bloke yelling into a phone, that's not what we're doing here. Sales is not convincing. It's not pushing. It's not tricking anyone. Sales is just helping the right person make a decision, if it actually makes sense for them. And if you're sitting there right now thinking to yourself, well, I can't even talk properly. Good. Neither could I. I could barely string 2 sentences together before starting without sounding awkward. I wasn't confident, I definitely wasn't smooth. So don't overthink it. This is a learnable skill. You don't need talent. You need reps and a simple structure. Now, what even is high ticket? High ticket just means things being sold that cost more money. So because they cost more money, the customers usually want to talk it over with a conversation before they buy. An easy example to follow along here is if a fitness influencer was selling like a $50 cooking guide, that would be low ticket. But a fitness coach selling a weight loss program where they get meal plans, diet plans, one-on-one coaching, that might be $3,000 to $10,000. That's high ticket. They're not buying a PDF, they're buying support, accountability, a plan, the coach's time. The same with business coaching, marketing services, mentorships, agency offers, everything like that that you see online. And every high ticket sale, whether it's $2,000, $15,000, $100,000, still comes down to the same 4 things. Where are they now? Where do they want to be? What's stopping them? And does the offer actually fit? That's it. That is the whole game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and sell you a dream. This skill pays for one reason and one reason only. Businesses already have people interested, and they lose money when those people don't get handled properly. That's it. If someone messages a business and gets ignored because the business owner is busy, that's money gone. If someone's interested but no one's there to follow up, that's money gone. If there's no one there to take the sales calls to close the deals, that's money gone. So if you can help a business turn interested people into paying customers, you're in turn valuable to that business owner. And being of value to valuable people with a lot of money is the trick to it all. And that's why beginners like me 18 months ago, like you, can get paid. Not because you're special, because you're solving a real problem for someone already making money. And by solving a problem for that person that will make them more money, they're happy to pay you whatever. This is why regular people like my boy Callum here was able to make $40,000 in the space of 1 month by just solving problems for people with money, taking calls, setting up appointments, and getting paid to do so. You don't need experience, you don't need followers, you don't even need money or a brand behind you, and you don't need to be an outgoing, confident person. You probably don't realize this, I didn't either, but I'd often wondered to myself why I saw so many tradies being so consistently successful with this. Most tradies aren't naturally good at talking, but we've already got the good raw pieces of a sales guy and someone who can make a lot of money in high ticket sales. And honestly, it makes so much sense. We talk to people all day, we solve problems all day, there's always problems, we come up with solutions, we explain things to different people all day, different trades, apprentices, which is all sales is really. We've just never really had the platform to take advantage of that. And once you get this, sales stops being so scary. It becomes a simple process. And it's the one skill that took me from being on the tools for 4 years straight to getting paid online. Now that you actually understand what high ticket sales is, let me show you the easiest entry point for beginners where you don't need to show your face. You can land your first role within your first 30 days, and that is money model number 1. If sales is the engine, appointment setting is the ignition. Let's get into module 3. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, sweet, sounds good, but I don't have any experience, I don't want to be a salesman, then this is where you start. Appointment setting is the easiest way to get into high ticket sales because it's basically the entry point. Appointment setting is simple. A business has a product or service on offer and gets messages from people interested. And your job is to do 2 things. Reply to all those people interested following a framework, and if it suits, organizing a time for that person to speak on the call to a sales rep. That's it. You're not on calls. You're not even actually speaking. You're typing. You're completely anonymous. You're behind a phone. You're just turning keen into booked in. Here's an example of what it may look like day to day once you land a setting role. Someone messages the business. We'll use a weight loss coach for example. This person is overweight, wanting to lose weight. Has come across a reel on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok of this fitness coach showing results, showing wins, showing how he helps people lose weight, maybe even his own weight loss journey. They reach out, you reply, you ask a few basic questions about where they're currently at and what their goals are. You see if they're a fit to what this coach offers, and you book them in. And the reason this gets you paid is because if the coach had to take time out of his day to answer all these messages himself, say a guy with 10,000 followers getting 100 messages a day, while they're trying to create more content, bring in more customers, actually deliver on their product or service, actually help people get weight, do one-on-one coaching, give their time out, create meal plans, create training plans, it's guaranteed that for some messages they're going to reply late, they're going to forget about it. Their product or service might not get as good a results because they can't put more time into it. They leave people on scene, they forget, and that's where money starts to go down the drain quickly. So when you learn how to handle it properly and take time off their hands, you become valuable and very fast. This isn't you copying some cringy sales script. You're just having a conversation like you would with a mate, as if you were trying to best help them lose weight, for example. Which a quick example would look something like, well, what's currently even going on? How long has it been going on for? How's that affecting you? What's the end goal here? What's been stopping you from achieving this goal? And if it all makes sense, and you come to the decision with the business that you're setting for that their product or service can actually genuinely help this person the same way you'd want to help a mate out, you just finish off the conversation with, all right, I think we can genuinely help you. You're in the right place. Are you free to lock in a time to book a call with one of our coaches? That's the whole job. Now, the money. How do you actually get paid? How does it work? There's a few different ways to get paid depending on the business. There is a base pay where basically you just get paid weekly like a normal job. Then there's commissions. So you can get paid commission per booked appointment. So just for booking the appointment in, you can get paid a commission. But then there's commission for results, which is if you book that call in and they close, you take a percentage of the cost of the whole program. And then there's more of a hybrid setup where you can get paid a base with commissions on top of that. So you could be earning like $1,000 a week as a base, plus all the people that are closing and that you're booking in, you're getting a commission of that. And yes, you can get paid as a beginner because you're doing a job that the business owner doesn't have time to do, and you're making him more money. So this is why it is the best entry point. You don't need confidence. You don't need to be a smooth talker or even know how to talk at all. You don't need a big audience or even post anything yourself online. You don't even really need any business skills. The business side of things is taken care for you. You can do this on the side of your job. You can do this on Smoko. You can do this on lunch, at the gym, on the toilet, as long as you've got your phone. All you need is consistency and a simple structure. And something that I see a lot of beginners not realize about, I guess, being an appointment setter early days is that you actually get the opportunity to be inside people's businesses, up and running businesses. So although yes, you're just trying to replace your income now with appointment setting, you're actually getting taught very, very valuable business lessons, getting to see the sales operations, sales side of things, so that later on, maybe when you do want to start your own thing in 5 years time, you've been inside multiple different businesses and you're actually getting to see how they work, rather than having to pay thousands of dollars to go to uni for a business degree to learn off a guy who's making $60,000 teaching a uni business degree. Stupid. It's the easiest way to get reps in without being thrown in the deep end, really. And once you learn how to do this well, you start making good money, you have the option to level up to be a closer and actually take the calls yourself and really start to take those next steps. Now, let me make this real for you with my experience when I first landed my first setting role. When I first started from day one, I wasn't confident. I had no idea about appointment setting. I wasn't good with my words. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to ask questions. So that's why I personally started with appointment setting rather than jumping straight into closing or something else, because it's simple. I could learn it at night after work. It only required an hour or two a night. I could practice it without having to be some full-on salesman. It wasn't overwhelming. And once I got that structure, it clicked. And when you land your first role and you book someone in for the first time, and then it actually turns into money for the business, the deal closes, you realize for the first time, you're like, this is a real skill. Like, this is a real thing. All right, I booked this guy in following this process and he closed. And then it's just replicating that. And you just start making more and more and more money with the more experience you get. And it's not just me. I've seen lads firsthand go from literally zero, complete beginner, having never sold anything in their life. All they knew was a hammer and a tool belt, to landing their first roles, making their first bit of money. Check out this win from my boy Lewis here. 25-year-old qualified plasterer from Melbourne, tried a bunch of different things online for years and got scammed and lost over $80,000 in the process. Going back to module 1, embrace that discomfort, embrace that risk, got started with something completely different, a new skill he'd never tried before, with the risk that it might not work out and he'd lose more money. Learned the skill, landed a role. The first month made $4,000. The second month made $20,000 typing DMs. Once you learn how to set appointments, you've got the foundations. Module 4 is the upgrade. The next steps, remote closing. Let's get into it. If appointment setting is learning how to start the conversation, then closing simply is learning how to finish it. And before you guys freak out, chill. You're not becoming the sleazy salesman. You're just learning how to help someone make a decision properly. Remote closing, you probably heard me refer to closing before, is basically just on the other side of the appointment setter's booked call. You are the guy, for example, this overweight person who reached out to the business owner will be talking to about potentially joining the program. You walk them through their situation, answer any questions that they've got, understand where they're at better, and even if it's a fit, and then you go through and run them through what the fitness coach, for example, actually has on offer and how you can fix the problems that this overweight person, for example, is facing. And that's where you go on and close the deal, if it makes sense. All sales is, all closing is, all setting is problem and solution. Like we said earlier with trading, that's all we deal with and that's all we do all day on site. Find problems, deal with problems, find a solution. That's it. People like to overcomplicate it with big words, but you're just having a straightforward conversation with someone who's facing a problem in their life, and you're just there trying to help find a solution while just keeping in the back of your mind, that's probably the hardest thing you have to do, what you have on offer, what the coach has on offer, to make sure it makes sense. So that if it genuinely does make sense, you're going to be able to tell this person how their problems will be solved by going ahead with the program. You're not cold calling randoms, you're not convincing strangers, you're not selling penny stocks like the Wolf of Wall Street. You're just speaking to someone who's already raised their hand, they're already interested, they need help, and trying to help them come to a solution. The 4 steps of every high ticket sales call is pretty simple. Pretty similar to the setting, they sort of go hand in hand. It's just you're speaking to them now face to face. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? What's stopping you? Do you want help fixing it? Here's how we can fix it. So it's pretty much just the next stepping stone from appointment setting. Setting teaches you the basics, handling people, asking questions over text, following a frame, and finding problems. Closing is essentially just the same thing, but you're the one who finishes that process off and actually provides the solution. Whereas setting, you're just finding the problems. So if you can set well and learn setting properly well, you're already halfway there. And here is where it gets exciting. From just making that small jump from starting the process to finishing it, from setting to closing, you are doubling your income. So as we spoke about before with the commission structure, if you're on a offer where you're getting paid for results, which is what most of the online coaches do, as a setter, you'd get paid 5% for every deal that you set that closes. The closer gets 10%. So say this weight loss program that we've been talking about is 10 grand. We'll say it's 10 grand. The setter would make $500 just for booking in that call. By just taking those next steps to become a closer, you can make $1,000 for every call you close. These calls aren't any longer than 30 or 45 minutes. So as you can see here now, you're starting to be paid by the skill that you actually possess rather than the amount of hours you work. You're no longer getting paid $30 for an hour of work. You could get paid $1,000 for an hour of work, but maybe if you don't close the deal, $0. So it really comes down to how well you can learn the skill. The better you learn the skill, the more money you make, the more value you provide, and the more freedom you get. Now you might be wondering what the average setter, what the average closer would make per month on average. And honestly, it's different from offer to offer. And as we were talking about, it's different for every person depending on how you go about learning the skills. If you learn it properly, if you go through training, if you actually get good, then I'd say the average for a setter would be $5,000 to $10,000 a month. We obviously saw Lewis, who went through the academy. He's able to make $20,000 a month. He found himself on a good offer and he's able to, make real top end money for a setter. So essentially, if the average for a setter was 5 to 10K a month, then the average for a closer would be 10 to 20K a month. But obviously, as we saw with Callum, with the right training, right foundations around him, he was able to scale his income to 40K a month. But I'd say anywhere from 5 to 10K a month as a setter and 10 to 20K a month as a closer is what is more than possible and average. But as you can see here, taking that step from setting to closing can really start to be your gateway out of your job, where you can start to make comfortably more than what you're making now, and where stuff can really start to take a turn. Around 3.5 months in myself is where I went from setting to closing and took that jump. My income in the space of those weeks alone went from about $1,500 a week to a few weeks later making over $10,000 in 1 week. 3 days after that $10,000 week is where I handed my 2 weeks notice in and quit my job, and the rest is history. And that's just my story, guys, but I'm not some diamond in the rough, even though at first when I was seeing those results, I couldn't believe it. I thought, have I just got lucky here? Because I was literally watching my life change before my eyes like that. I couldn't believe it. But over the last 18 months, I've seen it happen time and time again. My boy James here, who was working as a Sparky in Melbourne, made $6,000 in a week with remote closing. My boy Ryan learnt the sales skill properly, went from making about $800 a week in his construction job to having 100% closing rate days, the power of actually learning the skill properly, leading to $3,000 US weeks at 19 years old. And even my boy Michael here, a former chippy like myself, landed a closing role within his first 6 weeks, but then off the back of that closing role was able to make $7,500 in a week. And I want to take a back step quickly, because here's the best part. You don't need to master this today. We don't need to be going 100 miles an hour. This might be month 2 for your journey, because as I said, you may need to come back to this video. This isn't going to happen overnight. Anyone who promises that it will happen overnight is just lying, to be honest. It takes time. Take it slow. Learn it step by step across 90 days, because with learning a skill once and learning it properly means that is something that you will never lose. And with everything moving online nowadays, the opportunities are endless. That's why I'm so big on following a roadmap, helping guys through the same structure process I went through, a path that works time and time again. And yeah, you won't make millions of dollars in your first week. Sorry guys, but you are building something long-term, something real, something that will actually work from scratch as a beginner in 2026. And that leads me into module 5, the part that everyone seems to leave out and the key to your success in 2026. Something I've never shared before, the 90-day roadmap. This is the part everyone wants, because most of you aren't lazy, you're just lost. And I'm going to be honest, most of the online guys that you see making these sort of videos conveniently leave these side of things out. Everyone loves talking about the opportunity that we've got, but no one actually seems to show you day to day what it will look like as a beginner. That's why you feel confused, you feel lost, because you're trying to build a skill with random advice, random videos, and zero structure. So I'm going to do something that I've never done before in a video. I'm going to show you the missing middle to it all. The part that's really the difference between sitting there and watching everyone else win and actually making it work yourself. As I said, everyone nowadays online tries to hype you up by saying, you know, your whole life can change in 90 days, just take action, bro. But no one shows you how to actually do it in 90 days. You've probably been watching this video, hearing me say it, wondering, well, how do I do it in 90 days? And that's what we're going to do here. I'm giving you the structure, a real 90-day roadmap. Now, I'm not just saying this because it sounds good. This is exactly what I went through myself. This is what worked, and it's the same structure that has worked for hundreds of others because it removes guessing. If you're doing this properly, your first 90 days has 4 key components: knowledge, guidance, practice and feedback, and implementation. Now, what I mean by 4 key components and following this like a structured process is as follows. The first key component is knowledge. So to start anything online, to start learning a new skill, whether in the real world or online, you need to actually understand what that skill is. That's obviously what we're doing here in the first few modules, is giving you knowledge, step-by-step learning, step-by-step videos, learning all the basics. And then, you know, as you start to get your head wrapped around it more, going into like the frameworks, which we'll get into later, of how to ask questions, your line of questions, how to pitch, how to drop price, and then going into like objections, because at the end of sales calls, sometimes people are a bit hesitant to hand over the money, and that's a whole nother art in itself. And just going more and more advanced, obviously the more knowledge you get into, but it doesn't make sense to jump on a roll and try and implement everything that we teach here today without having good knowledge around the skill. And you'll probably find with a lot of stuff that you watch online is it's all over the place. You start with real basic stuff and then you're going into like the real advanced stuff. It's really important you do this stuff in order. You get the basics in, you understand how the money works, how the skill itself works if you're learning setting. Then you go into actually learning how to ask these questions, and then later on you learn how to land a role. Because if you don't have this sort of structure and get that knowledge in properly first, then you're just really guessing what to learn next. Key component number 2 is guidance. And no, I don't mean some motivational coach guru trying to push you forward. I mean someone correcting you, because beginners can't self-correct. If you're an apprentice on a job site, you don't know where you're fucking up. And if you do know that you've made a fuck up, you still don't know how to fix it. So you need a place where you can ask questions, get questions answered fast. So you're not sitting on the same question for weeks and weeks trying to figure it out, when you could just ask that question, get it answered straight away. Without guidance, you'll repeat the same mistakes for months on end and call it learning. Key component number 3 is practice and feedback. You don't learn sales by just watching videos. You know, you need to get the knowledge in to understand it, but you don't actually learn sales by just watching sales. You learn sales by actually practicing the skill, getting feedback, doing reps. You're not going to get better at playing cricket or football or a sport by just sitting there and watching other people on the tally play it. You get better by getting out and actually playing the sport and making mistakes and getting that feedback. And with sales, we do this with things called role plays. If you were wanting to be a closer, you could be doing a role play with someone who's pretending to be interested in something. You're practicing your conversations, you're practicing the order in which you're going to ask your questions and how you're going to find information. Then you can get feedback from the person you're doing a role play with, or even better, from someone who actually has sales experience. Maybe even the business owner, for example. I know a lot of businesses would run sales training, and this loop is what starts to build confidence when you start jumping onto real calls, because you've already taken hundreds and hundreds of calls already. And key component number 4 is really just implementation from there. This is where most people stay stuck forever, because they never implement. It goes back to, once again, module 1 is this is all irrelevant without urgency and action. You can learn all day, you can do all the role plays and get all the knowledge in you want all day, but without implementation and action and applying everything you've learned into the real world, you'll still never get paid and still be stuck in that same spot. So your 90-day plan needs a clear path into real conversations and real opportunities. All right, so now you understand the 4 key components. Let's break these 90 days down month by month, what they will actually look like for you, what I would focus on for you guys right now so that you can actually learn this skill properly. And I'm going to explain it in 2 ways. What the month is meant to achieve, what you're actually trying to achieve for that month, and then what it actually looks like for me and the boys who I was able to help see these results inside a structured program like ABC, just to try and help you guys visualize it rather than trying to paint a picture with words. So what the first 30 days will look like will be with key components, mainly 1 and 2, which knowledge and guidance. The goal really of month 1 as a complete beginner is just to stop being clueless. You're not trying to be smooth yet. You're not even trying to be a sales guy. You're just getting clear on what this is, what to say, and how the conversations flow. So month 1 would look something like this. Step-by-step learning in the right order. So really beginner stuff into intermediate, into more advanced stuff as you work through it. Asking questions early if you've got people around you who have some sales experience. Getting corrected fast, not sitting on the same stuff for weeks and weeks on end. If you want this to happen in 90 days and you want this to happen fast, ask your questions, get corrections, because there can be 2 people, one who sits on the same question for 2 months and one who gets it answered in 10 seconds. And from there, towards the end of the 30 days, once you're starting to build that knowledge, I'd start to get some light practice in. So you're not just working, you're starting to actually implement the skill a little bit. But this is a really foundational month. And if you're wanting to do this within 90 days, it's important that you act fast on this, start to build good habits, because if month 1 is messy, then everything after is messy. So really start to just absorb everything, and then towards the end of the month, start to try to implement it a bit, even if it's not perfect. Now, what that looked like for me in month 1 was working through beginner modules in order. So start to finish, just working through modules at my own pace after work. I'm having a look here, modules that were labeled why start with appointment setting, understanding appointment setting frameworks. As you see, getting a bit more advanced there, where you're talking about framework and questions to ask. And then it goes to objection handling in the DM. So how to handle objections, more advanced. And just working through those after work were perfect for me, because I was only like an hour or 2 out of my night. And then from there, ideally, it is jumping on calls with coaches. So for me, when I was undertaking my training, we had between 3 and 5 calls a day. Not all of them were just for appointment setting or closing. I was just learning settings. So there was usually between 1 and 2 calls a day. So I'd start to jump on those calls with the setting coaches, guys who have made businesses millions and millions of dollars with sales and with appointment setting, asking my questions there and really starting to level up that way. And at that point, that's where you really start to get clarity on what you're doing. You can see this is like a real thing. You can really start to believe in yourself that it's possible for someone like you. And as I said, towards the end of that first month is where I started doing my first few role plays. So practicing appointment setting with other people at similar stages to me who are only like a month in as well. Now, month 2, your next 30 days, so heading into the 60-day mark, is where you really start to build the skill properly. This is the month where some people drop off or some people avoid because it starts to get uncomfortable. Once again, going back to module 1, there's a reason why we had that as module 1. Even those little things like doing your first role play or practicing with someone you've never really spoken to before, they can be like overwhelming and scary, but that's where the growth will come from, because the first time may be awkward. But yeah, the next 30 days in month 2 is really just doing your practice and getting feedback on that practice that you're doing until really it starts to click. So you'd be doing role plays every day, practicing appointment setting or closing, whatever stage you're up to, handling objections, practicing like follow-up, getting feedback, and then fixing those same mistakes until they disappear and you're pretty much ready for your role. So what that looked like for me was, obviously I'd sort of got the knowledge up. So I was just really, all I was doing was just practicing role playing. So I was hitting up other students inside the academy, doing practice role plays together, posting it into the community where it's all held on school, getting feedback from the coaches, then doing another role play, trying to fix up what the coaches said I fucked up. And then the more you do of that, you're pretty much ready at that point. And you just keep running it up day after day. We even had role play sessions where it'd be like live role plays on coaching calls. They were probably the most beneficial for me. We can actually do a live role play and then get live feedback on that, which was a bit scary, like in front of heaps of people, but you know, once again, uncomfortable. And then from there, from days 60 to 90 is implementation. Month 3 is execution. And I hope you guys can see how simple this process is and how tangible it really is to achieve within 90 days. But essentially the goal of month 3 is just applying everything you've learned, all the practice you've put in into the real world, and start getting real outcomes. This is where it stops becoming content and training and starts becoming real. So month 3 will look like still doing your role plays, still keeping on top of the skill, starting to reach out for roles, apply for roles, learning how to present yourself to these people, which we'll get into in this video later. Then eventually landing that role. And that's where it gets real, where you're having real conversations, you're doing real follow-up, you're booking real calls, and you start making real money and actually using, you know, those skills under pressure in real life situations, which is great. And obviously I'll put 90 days on this roadmap, but realistically it can take you 60 days if you absorb the knowledge quicker, or you put more work in, or you do more role plays. For me, it was around 75 days before I landed my first role, and that whole process was pretty smooth for me because I had access to people who have worked with a lot of businesses. I actually got certified as an appointment setter by the academy, so because I had no experience before, that helped out a lot as well. So when I was applying for these roles, I could say I've got sales training, I don't have any experience on a role, but I've gone through training, I understand how to set. And there was modules as well later on, like step by step, going back to the knowledge video modules that helped me prepare for interviews and find roles and things like that, which was really helpful and helped me land a role inside 90 days. And honestly, month 3, the implementation is the most important, because if you don't implement, you don't get paid. So just quickly running over everything we just covered. I know it was a bit of a longer module, but I wanted to break that down in depth so you guys can actually see how I got these results, how I get these results for people, because it really is so possible with the right structure and progress. Month 1 is knowledge and guidance, getting that knowledge in and starting to get your questions answered, speeding up the process. Month 2 is practice and feedback, putting the skill into practice. You don't get better if you don't actually put it into practice. And month 3 is just implementing that into the real world and landing that first role. This isn't magic. This is just what happens when you stop guessing. Look, this is what I've seen firsthand. This is what I've went through myself. And this is what I've watched work time and time and time again for beginners. You can try this alone. This is why I'm creating this video for you guys, for anyone who just wants to go at it alone. Me personally, you know, I did try and go alone at a lot of different things for months, and I wasted a lot of time and ended up getting nowhere. And the reason why most people quit, why I quit so many times in that first year where I was all over the shop, is because they have no structure, no support, no guidance, no accountability, no real plan mapped out for them. And probably most importantly, no one telling them where they're going wrong. That's why this 90-day path exists. So if at any point throughout this video so far, or for the remainder of the video, you're thinking to yourself like, fuck, I just want to do this properly. I don't want to guess my way through it. I want to actually ensure that I get the best results for myself and learn this the right way. That first link in the description down below is a link to book in a call with the team. The same guys that trained me up, the same guys that got me to this point, and pretty much the only reason that I'm here. So if you want to follow the same process that we just ran through, you want your own personalized plan mapped out, best suited to you, the hours you work, access to your own one-on-one support coach, and a community of guys who are starting out at a similar point to you, and other guys who have been there for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, can help walk you through the process. Press on that link and schedule your own call. If you got any questions to me as well, the link below that is my Instagram. Just send me a DM over there too. But regardless, whether you do this inside a community like ABC, or you try building your own version of this, or you try going about this and following those steps and doing it your own way. Those are the 4 key concepts that I would follow, and that 90-day structure is the one that works. But either way, keep watching, because for module 6, we're going to be running through the frameworks, what to say, how to ask your questions, where to ask them, so you're not guessing what to say. Righty guys, welcome to module number 6, the sales framework. The same framework that I learned from ground zero, the same framework I've used to make multiple 6 figures in the past 12 months alone, 6 figures within my first 12 months of starting, and the same framework used by all the wins that you've seen throughout this video by regular, everyday people. Like my boy Conrad here, after working 6+ years in construction in Ireland, managed to close and take home $12,000 in the space of 1 week following this frame. Or myself, same story, was working construction for 4 years, and 2 years later, after learning sales, following this frame, was able to pull in $20,000 in 1 week. Crazy, I know, but don't stress, because we all started where you are right now. It's simple, it's not a script, it's a conversation with structure and purpose that you guide. Now you might be wondering first off, what is a framework? That's where we'll start. A framework is simple. It's a line of questions that you follow to uncover whether someone is a fit for the product or service that you're setting or closing for. That flows just like a natural conversation. I just want to emphasize again that we aren't following a script here. This is a strategic conversation where you understand what you're trying to get out of the conversation, but it flows naturally. First, we'll break down the setting framework. The closing framework is pretty similar with just a few differences. So the setting framework is as follows. These are the things that you're trying to get out of a conversation with the job as a setter to either qualify or disqualify a lead that you're going to send to the sales team or not send to the sales team. So you're trying to understand their current situation, the pain that they've got in their current situation, the urgency they've got to act on changing their current situation, their goals once they're out of current situation, financial qualification, and then from there, it's your job to make a decision whether this is the right path for them, and that's where you go on to pitch the call if it is. Now, I'll quickly break down each section for you guys, and we'll use that weight loss example again, just so we keep in the same flow of things. So step 1 of the setting frame is current situation and then their pain in current situation. So if you're setting for a weight loss program for a weight loss coach who's helping people lose weight, more than likely if they're reaching out for help, their pain will revolve around their body image or the way they look. So that's where you have your line of questions there. Obviously you've got to be a bit careful with how you have the conversation, because this is something people are very, insecure about and want to fix. But it's basically where you're just understanding what problems this person is facing. And it's really important as well here not to assume anything. If you're on a weight loss program, obviously you're going to assume this person wants to lose weight, but we've got to actually uncover what the real problem is here so that we can best help this person. So we've got to understand what they're currently doing, their age, maybe their job, their physique, And then you've got to tie in as well what's actually made them reach out to this business specifically. As I said, no matter what offer you're on, whether it's to make more money, it's business coaching, it's fitness coaching, muscle gain, weight loss, if someone's reaching out for help, there's always an underlying problem that you've got to figure out. That's your job as the setter. And the next step is the urgency to actually act on this situation. Because if you're just sending calls to the calendar, to the sales team with people who aren't that serious, then those deals aren't going to close and no one makes money. So in turn, you look through the whole process, and if you're sending leads to the calendar that aren't that serious, then you're the one who's going to get the sack. And usually you can tell how urgent someone is to change. And if you can tell someone wants to change, but there is a lack of urgency, that's where you can use a technique called consequencing. So cost of inaction, where you could potentially ask this person where they're going to be in another year's time if nothing changes. And that's where they can start to paint a picture in their head of why they need to change. But usually most of the time, people, they're reaching out for a reason. So the urgency is pretty high. Next from there is goals. So now that we've uncovered their situation, they want to make a change, they're urgent to make that change now. now, we need to actually understand their goals, what they're trying to get out of this. If someone's goal is to get shredded, but the weight loss program specializes in fat loss, then it might not still be the right fit. So you've still got to understand their goals, what they're trying to get out of this. But the important part with goals as well is to begin to paint a picture for this person, actually help them see their goals become a real tangible thing, what it actually changes for them. Basically making the job for the closer once they're on the call so much easier. Now, as the setter, this is probably really the only thing that is different for the setter compared to the closer is this part of the frame, which is the financial qualification. So obviously we're working with high ticket here. So the investment on the program that you're going to be on will usually be upwards of $2,000 at a minimum. If this person is 13 years old in school, if this person is from a third world country, if this person is unemployed, then maybe it's not the right fit for them right now. And there's no point sending it to the sales team because once again, that's wasting everyone's time. So this is why it is really important to follow this frame so you understand their situation. Usually you don't actually have to financially qualify towards the back end of the set because you understand from their current situation. If you did it well, you know their job, their age, which you got at the start of the conversation, you could point them in another direction, which also by doing so saves you time where you could focus all your time into the good qualified leads. And essentially from there, if they qualify, they tick all the boxes, that is where you then pitch the call. So rather than in the closing framework, the pitch being dropping the price, for you, the pitch is just pitching the call with the sales team. And that's where you can send a booking link in to book a call. They'll lock in a time with the sales team, and then all your job really from there is to nurture them, get them ready for the call, make sure they show up to the call, and the sales team does the rest. And that's essentially the setting frame to follow. You're just basically asking a line of questions. Sometimes the order of the frame can change because we've got to remember that the conversation has to flow naturally because this is not a script. It's more of a guideline to go off and things that you need in order to send it off to the sales team so it's going to be a successful call. Now for the next part, the closing framework, which essentially is just the same framework, just a lot deeper. And obviously, you know, an actual conversation face to face, not just over text, which sometimes can be a bit difficult to consequence people over text because you can come across like a bit of a dickhead. So this is where you can have a more real conversation, extract more pain, really understand where this person's coming from and help them also make the right decision for them too. So step one is information gathering, which is similar in the setting framework to current situation, painting current situation, where you essentially ask your line of questions so you as the closer can understand where this person's at, the pains that they're facing, the problems they're facing, maybe even what they've tried in the past to fix these problems. Because if you can uncover things that they've tried, then you also know what they haven't tried and maybe your offer will make sense to them as the solution. Then you go into goals. So same as the setting framework, you build urgency, you can consequence a bit, then you need them to paint their picture of their goals, where they want to be. Once again, making sure everything's a good fit and getting them to paint that picture in their head of, you know, what life will look like. And this is really the only part that changes in a closing call, which is the next stage where if everything aligns, you know, this person is serious, they're urgent to make a change, the product or service that you're selling seems like it would be a good fit. That's where you can actually start to give this person the solution that they're after. Whereas with setting, the solution, I guess, that you're giving there is the call. So what I mean by this is saying something after getting their goals, like with everything that we've spoken about, I can definitely see this being the right fit to help you with your goals to lose 20 kg. If you're open, I can break down fitness coaches program and how we can get you there. Now, obviously from offer to offer, this will change every single time. Obviously, when you get onboarded onto a role, you understand what the deliverables are. So what the coach actually offers, but that's where you start to go into the solution. So it might be different meal plans, training plans, one-on-one accountability, one-on-one coaching, and things like that. So for this fitness offer, that's where you start to list off how we can try and fix the problems he's faced in the past and come to a solution with the product or service on offer, if it makes sense. Then from there, once you tie it all in together, it all makes sense. That's where the prospect, which is the potential customer, now decides whether he can see these things getting him to his goals. And if they do, that's where you go on to pitch, which is not sending a booking link for the call, you're pitching the price. Once again, just reiterating what we spoke about earlier, as you can probably see now, it is literally just problem and solution. There is nothing more to it. A lot of people overcomplicate sales, but it's just problem and solution. And essentially that is the framework in itself. Now, what I do if I were you guys are going back to that 90-day plan is start to understand that framework, start to understand your line of questions, but also, as we said before, like watching videos isn't going to make you guys better. So actually start practicing. If you've got anyone you can practice role play with, or anyone who can give you feedback with what you're doing, even using ChatGPT potentially to role play with, and then ChatGPT to give you feedback as well. Obviously won't be as good as someone who's got real world experience, but that would do in the meantime. Once again, once you're putting in the reps, you're getting better and better. The next step to this process is the implementation, like we spoke about. So for module 7 is how to land your first high ticket role. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it becomes real. This is why you're here, because landing your first role and making your first money is what we've been building up to. No more theory, no more one day. Here's how you actually find and secure your first role. Now, you've got 4 main places where you can find these businesses to work for to land your first role. First being job boards like LinkedIn or Seek. Second, Facebook groups, where is actually where I landed my first role. Third would be outreach on things like Instagram, finding businesses on Instagram, Facebook, social media. And fourth, probably the fastest path is a community. So I'm going to quickly break down how to go about finding these roles before we actually go into what to say to these businesses, how to handle the interviews and things like that. So first off, job platforms, job board like LinkedIn and Seek. So if you go to a platform like Seek, type in keywords here like appointment setter, you'll see already there's 940 opportunities available. So there's heaps of work here. Now you can obviously filter a few things out. We want to work remote. That cuts it down to about 100, still plenty of opportunities. And now from those 100 opportunities, there's a few things we'd want to filter out as well. Now, obviously we spoke earlier about sort of how the different ways you can get paid. You can be just on base pay. The roles we want to look for preferably are hybrid or just commission-based paying roles, because that's where the most growth and most money will come from. So this role here I just found is perfect. So it's a remote role, and there's a few things we're going to look out for here, which when you guys are looking for your role, I'd look out for as well. So you're going to be working with qualified leads. So these are people who are already keen, already interested. And if we go down to the pay structure, you're going to be getting a base pay with on-track earnings. Basically, that means of $60,000 to $90,000 a year, just base, with uncapped commissions. So you're going to be getting paid commissions on top of that base pay. And now the other key thing here as well is we obviously spoke about the next steps with closing. In this role, there's room for growth. So you can go onto a closing role where, as we spoke about earlier, it just doubles. So there's growth within this business, which is great for us. So we don't have to find a setting role, and then once we're ready to closing, we don't have to go find another closing role. We can just stay inside the same business. We already know the deliverables. So just looking through quickly, this would be a really good one. But as you see here, there's so many opportunities here paying upwards of 6 figures just base. This one's 60K base plus super and commissions, 100 to 120K on track earning, 100% remote work-life balance, no cold calling and warm leads. So this would be another great one as well. Now, for the next way to find a role would be Facebook. This is where I found my first role. Now, something you probably didn't know, there's heaps of these groups where coaches, consultants, agency owners, businesses just post job opportunities in these groups where you can just apply straight away. So just scrolling through here, this guy Christian is a founder of Chief Marketing, and he's looking for a high ticket sales closer, remote and commission based. Perfect. Basically the same thing as Seek. You just want to look out for a few key things, follow sort of the steps to go and apply. And that would be another way I definitely recommend to find your first role. That's where I found my first role, which was actually on a day trading offer. Taught people how to do day trading, applied for one of these roles, ended up jumping on an interview with the business owner and landing that role with sort of what I'd learned. Now, the next way would be through social media. So we're just going to use Instagram for this example. So if you type in keywords like fitness coach, you go to this one, for example. Basically, you want to type in niche word with coach or consultant or business. So we have a look at this chick here. She's a fitness coach. She's got a link in her bio. So she's obviously got something on offer. This is where you can message someone like that. We'll go through what to actually say to these people soon, but you message them and basically rinse and repeat that. If you've got businesses that you follow online, like I know a really popular one in Australia is Adam Sullivan, for example. He obviously helps people lose weight. Now, a little sneaky trick for you guys here is if you press this person with the plus next to it, it actually shows other accounts like this one. So that's where you can really start to do heaps and heaps of outreach without having to search like heaps of different keywords. Like if you just type in fitness coach, press on the first 5, press this person, you'll see there's like also heaps of other fitness coaches you can just go through and apply for. And this is where I actually landed my second role, which was the role that eventually allowed me to replace my income and hit my first 10K month, which was inside the community. So having a community where people have connections inside the space. So an example inside the community I learned in is 5 times a day there is opportunities posted where people have connections with other people in the space. These ones were all posted a day ago, where you can just go and straight up apply for these offers. They're already good offers. And also more than likely as well, if you've got really good at setting, got really good at closing, the coaches are impressed with you. Obviously, they've worked on sales teams before. They've worked with businesses before. So usually these businesses will just go straight to a sales academy to ask, have you got any setters or closers ready? And that's where you can actually be placed on your first role. And that's what happened to me. I basically didn't have to do any work. I just got recommended for a role, got put on, and that's pretty much how I left my job. Now, what do you actually say when applying? How do you pitch yourself to these businesses? And it all actually comes back down to learning sales again. Like people think, yes, I'm going to learn setting. Yes, I'm going to learn closing, but you're actually learning how to sell yourself as well, because it's all just a frame. It's all just something you follow. So whether it's selling yourself to a business, selling yourself to that dream girl, it actually improves all areas of your life. Now your goal here is obviously to sound normal, to not sound needy, to sound like you can offer value to this business and that you'll be reliable and also coachable. That's a big thing as well. So the message frame that I would sort of follow when outreaching or applying for one of these roles would be as follows. Hey coach, was just looking through your account and saw the results that you're getting for your clients. I love the work you're doing. I'm not sure if your current sales process has this, but in my experience, we've found that sending a short 10 to 15 minute video to prospects before the call drastically improves the show rate, closing rate, and overall quality of the call. If you're interested, I'd be happy to have a chat further. Thanks for your time. Now, something like that, you might be wondering, well, I didn't actually ask for the role. I didn't actually ask for a job. But what you're doing is actually showing that you have value to offer. You have experience. You found something in a sales process that maybe they're not implementing that they'd be interested to hear. And the reason that is to stand out from the pack. That's half the trouble, because there's obviously going to be other people who are applying and looking for these roles, maybe complete beginners who have no experience and don't know these little tips or tricks. So how can you stand out from the market? How can you stand out to this person and actually prove your value, prove your worth? And the main thing here is just trying to get them actually on a call, get their attention, where they, once again, you can begin to sell yourself to this business. Now that's sort of the first step, how to stand out from the pack. The biggest thing is to lead with value. But then you're probably wondering, well, what do I actually say on one of these interviews? You know, it's got to be scary. Once again, going back to embracing that uncomfortability, but it's also important that when you're going on to an interview, that you also have questions you want to ask as well. What's their current sales process like? How many leads they bring in a day? What's the closing rate? What's the show-up rate? How long has the business been around for? Do you actually get results for the business? And it's also on you to do some research before that as well, to actually understand, to show you're serious. But also a lot of people, especially beginners, fall into the trap of just treating it like a job interview where the business owner just asks a million questions, you get overwhelmed, you try and answer them to the best of your ability. And you don't need to show that you're a sales guy. You're trying to make sure as well this is a good offer for you, that you value your time, you value what you're going to be selling. And the best way to do it is also ask your questions. Show interest, that you're keen on your own growth. Because if you could show that you're keen on getting the right offer, you want to grow yourself, that's obviously going to help the business grow. Now, I don't want to scare you guys with this stuff, because obviously it's a bit down the line. And once you learn how to close, how to set, you're obviously going to be so much more confident with this sort of stuff. It's obviously going back to that 90-day roadmap, the end of the road. That is where, you know, stuff becomes real. But if you're working through this and going through this month by month through this video, that is how I'd go about it. And even something I did as well was role-played interviews. Actually practice what it would be like. If you check out my boy Lyric here, at 18 years old, he landed his first closing role and closed a $14,000 deal. Complete beginner, was working in a warehouse, dropped out of school. If he can do it, I'm sure anyone can. Or even my boy Mitchell here, former Sparky apprentice, who just 2 months in, coming in as a complete beginner, a degenerate, was able to pull in $2,100 in a day within only his first few weeks on the offer. These guys are no different to you, they're just a few months ahead. That's really all it is. And the main thing here, once again, is action and urgency. Do not watch this and do nothing. You've got 4 different places you can find roles. If you're watching this and you've been practicing setting, you're practicing closing, you're at about day 60, start sending outreach messages, following the formula that I gave you. Start preparing yourself for interviews. Do this 10 times a day over the space of 2 weeks. Without a doubt, you will have your first role. Because once again, landing that first role, making that first bit of money doesn't come from motivation. It comes from reps and actually taking action. Welcome guys. Congratulations for making this far. We are up to money module number 3. We now understand sales. We understand how roles work. We understand how these businesses operate online. And I want to introduce you to one more skill. Not something you necessarily need today, but something that makes everything else you learn 10 times more valuable. This skill is the reason businesses hire setters in the first place. The reason why closers can get paid so much. It's the reason remote roles even exist, and it's called marketing, which in short is attention. Marketing is everywhere, and when you think of marketing, you think ads on TV, signs on the street, big billboards. But with more and more things moving online, social media marketing and just marketing and being able to capture attention, 1 has never been easier, but 2 has never been a more valuable skill. For all the tradies or even, just regular 9-to-5 workers out there, think of any business in the real world you've ever worked for. For a business to run, they need paying customers, they need quotes, they need clients, they need work, they need repeat work to keep the business running, to keep workers busy. Online businesses are just the same, but at a bigger and almost easier scale with the times that we're moving into. Online businesses need eyeballs. They need leads, they need book calls, they need clients. And here's the most important part. Setters and closers only exist because businesses online know how to get attention. No attention equals no leads. No leads equals no calls equals no closes equals no money. Now online, there are only 3 ways businesses get attention. First is organic attention. So stuff that you see on your For You page, it's not paid for, it's just posted organically. This can come from personal brands, fitness coaches like we looked at, posting value, posting results, documenting journeys, and helping people get the end desire. This is where most coaching and educational companies exist. Number 2 is paid attention, so ads. You've probably seen ads pop up as well, where you can click somewhere to apply. And a lot of businesses do this on top of organic as well, to pay for more reach, for more eyeballs. And obviously at a certain scale, when you're bringing in enough revenue, you can pay to do that. You can begin, rather than worrying on an algorithm, you can just pay for the same views. This is why so many roles have inbound leads, have people interested, and consistent lead flow as well. And number 3 is partner attention. So this is where you might see creators do things like collaborations with brands, collaborations with other creators, cross-polluting their platforms. So if there was like a self-development coach and a fitness coach, they might do a collab because their audience is sort of the same. Someone who wants to lose weight might also want to develop as a person, and vice versa. Think of things like podcasts, collaborations on things like clothing brands. Every business uses some sort of combo of these 3 things. And you as a setter or closer then in turn become valuable because you turn this attention into the book calls and into the closed deals. And this is the part nobody teaching sales explains. You don't have to do the marketing, but you do also need to understand it as well. Because first off, it makes you way better as a setter. You understand why leads come in. You understand the customer's journey to actually reaching out, what they've seen. You understand how to better warm people up because you understand how this business is attracting attention. You understand better how to ask the right questions. It makes you way better as a closer. You know exactly how the prospect came across the offer, whether it was through a collaboration, whether it was through a fitness documentation journey. You know what sort of message the coach is getting across. You know what problems they're responding to. You know sort of their psychology before they even speak to you. What's going to get them into the buyer's mindset. And it makes you way more hireable. Businesses don't just want setters or closers. They want people who understand customer psychology, people who get the whole ecosystem of how it all works, people who can actually think and not follow a script, which is what I'm trying to break down for you guys right here. But not only these 3 things, not only will it help you in the short term, but also for your long-term game plan, for your long-term freedom. Because later down the track when you're earning good money, and maybe you want to start up your own thing with whatever that may be, marketing will then become leverage, your best friend. But just to reiterate, today, as we're watching this, you don't need to post. You don't need a brand, you don't need followers, we've been over that. But it is important that you understand how getting attention works and how the whole ecosystem works. And once again, going back to, I think in module 3, when we were breaking down appointment setting, being involved in these businesses as a complete beginner, where you don't have to actually pay any money to learn business, is so valuable, and you don't even realize it until later on. For me, landing my first setting roles, being involved in these businesses has been the sole reason. Getting to see how these businesses market has helped me with myself, be able to run my own operations, be able to run my own teams. So landing that first setting role, yes, you might make 5, 10K a month, you might be able to leave your job, that's great. But you're also seeing how these businesses, coaches, influencers are able to bring in these leads. You're able to learn these skills for later on down the line. So I hope now you guys get it. Sales is how you're gonna make money today in the next 90 days. But marketing is the skill that multiplies everything later. You don't need to master it now. You don't need to post now. You just need to understand how the whole game, I guess, fits together. And once you understand the game, you become dangerous. Now let me show you how all this ties together. Your life, your income, your future. Inside module 9, the freedom path. Rightio, boys and girls, we are at the end of the road. You understand sales, you understand setting, closing. You know how roles work, where to land them. You know how the next 90 days should look like if you implement and take action. But I want to zoom out for just a second and show you what this can actually lead to. Because making money online, yeah, it's cool. But freedom, that is a whole different game. And to be honest, most blokes never get there. Not because they're dumb, but because no one ever showed them the path. Freedom isn't just quitting your job, getting out your 9 to 5, getting out your trade, whatever it may be. That's just step 1, but there are 3 levels. Level 1 is obviously replacing your income. This is where everyone starts. This is what you guys are working for today. You go from maybe $700 to $1,200 a week on a job site, soar back, early alarms, shit weather, no time, capped income, to setting or closing from your phone, from your laptop, at home, from anywhere in the world, without having to destroy your body, getting to pick your own hours. You're making the same money, if not a lot more, without having to destroy your body. This is where life stops becoming stressful. You don't have to worry about money. You can buy whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can actually start breathing again. This is the outcome of your first role, your first 90 days. This is the next 3 to 6 months if you take this seriously. But level 2 is taking control of your time. This is the level where freedom really starts to come in. This is where you can begin to choose where you work, when you work, what time you want your calendars open. If you're closing for an offer, you might only want your calendar open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You choose your own hours. You can enjoy the rest of the day in a country. You can choose how much you work. work. You might only work 3 days for the week, or you might work 7 4-hour days, or you might be going hard as fuck at home, waking up at 10 a.m. and taking calls till 10 p.m, raking in money. This is where you start traveling. This is where you can truly start to provide for your family, where you can wake up and the day is yours. You spend it how you like. And when I hit this level, this is where my whole life changed. This is where traveling to Southeast Asia, Bali, Thailand, meeting different people, Dubai, doing a Euro summer, getting to enjoy my 20s while still building a future for myself became a real thing. Not because I was a genius or I cracked the code, but because I had full control of my time. Something you just never do working by the hour, because the only way you can make money is by the amount of hours you work. And essentially there, level 3 is where you can build your own vehicle. This is where generational and lifetime freedom can come from. This is the final level, obviously, a bit further down the line, but it's good for you guys to see where this can lead to. This level, almost no 9-to-5 or no tradie even knows really exists or is actually a possible thing. But as we broke down the goals earlier, the more smaller goals you achieve over time, like I'm only 2 years in and I'm almost at this level, that unimaginable level of freedom you couldn't even picture right now becomes a tangible thing. You could potentially begin your own brand, start up your own personal brand, build your own following, create your own digital product, have your own sales team, even begin your own business or coaching, where you can start to pursue, if you're into the gym and fitness or mindset, start up your own coaching there. This is how people can go from 10 to 50K a month to 50 to $500,000 a month. And it's not magic. It's not getting lucky on a crypto dump or a crypto coin. It's not having a trending e-commerce product. It's just the same skill you learned earlier, but at scale. And is why, even though you won't realize it now, but being involved in an industry like this as a complete beginner, just starting out, being involved around highly successful businesses and getting to see inside the businesses and how they work is the biggest cheat code to it all. You now get to decide how far you want this to go. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and do this stuff, but the opportunities are endless, which I hope you can see. It is there if you want. The generational path, the opportunity that I said 99% of people don't even realize they're passing by, could be here right now for you. It's there if you want to go and grab it. Now, you might be wondering for me what it was actually like to go from having literally no time, being dead broke, to freedom within the space of 6 months. And it really started for me when I first replaced my income. I realized I didn't need to trade my time for money anymore. The first few days after leaving my job, turning my alarm off, just not feeling stuck anymore, not rocking up to a place I didn't want to necessarily be at every day with a smile on my face. Those early moments of freedom are something that I'll never forget. They were almost the best parts. Just the little stuff like that you don't even realize you're going through every day. And then from there, as you grow, as you progress, that turns into travel, that turns into moving overseas potentially, that turns into being able to give back to your family, to be able to pay for holidays away for them. For me, being able to help my brother out, take him and his daughter away on their first holiday, bring my whole family along on that experience as well. Building something real, something that's going to last me for the rest of my life. And that side of things is the craziest part, because you're building something that you thought was impossible 12 months ago. And once again, the crazy part is none of this happened because I was special or because I'm any different to any of you. It happened because I just learnt the right skills. I found the right people. I found the right structures, and I didn't stop when shit got uncomfortable. I embraced the risks. I embraced the discomfort, and you can do the exact same thing. That is why I'm making this video. The truth is, if you close this video and go back to normal life without doing anything, nothing at all changes. If there is one thing that is for certain, you know exactly what the next 12 months of your life looks like if you do nothing at all. Same job, same money, same routine, same stress, same anxiety, same body pain, that same one-day mindset, and that same cycle. You've already lived that year. You've lived multiple of those years. Do you really want to repeat it? 2026 is here. It's here today. 2025 flew by. And as we've broken down today, this is one of the biggest shifts in modern history, in jobs that you will see in your lifetime, but in many lifetimes to come, and many times before us. You either take advantage of the opportunity, you take action now, or you get left behind and you stay the same. So here's what I'll say after everything that we've covered. From my experience, looking back over the last 18 months, almost 2 years of my life, going from someone who failed school, who was no good, who got kicked out of home, who was out drinking and partying every weekend with no direction, who was lost at rock bottom, that you're not too dumb, you're not behind, you're not too late, you're not too old or too young. You're just missing a plan, a structure, accountability, a roadmap, a community of people to keep you pushing, a community of people who are like-minded and will work towards one common goal. Someone to pull you through the weeks your old habits try to drag you back. That's what the boys who changed their lives had, and that's what I had too. The first link down below in the description is where you can book a one-to-one call with one of the success coaches, and beyond that as well. I'm still getting mentored to this day. As we spoke about earlier, it is just a straight conversation about you, where you're at, if this makes sense, which money model you want to start with, what you actually want to achieve, what this will look like for you on a day-to-day basis while still working full-time, while you're building, and whether any of this actually even makes sense for you. If it's not the right fit or you don't think it's the right fit, we'll tell you. And if it is, well, you've seen the results. So if you're serious about this, you're committed, you're not here to waste time. The link is down below to book in. Message me on Instagram, that is the link below that. Reach out to me with any questions. And remember what we spoke about earlier. Most guys spend their whole life waiting for this right magical moment. But you've got to start looking at things for this is the moment. One decision changed the whole trajectory of my life forever. This could be yours as well. I hope this was of value, guys. I hope you guys crush 2026. I hope this is everything you ever needed. And I can't wait to see the change in all of you who are still here right now. I know you've got what it takes. It is now well and truly time to implement and take action. I'll see you guys on the inside. Let's get after 2026.